You heard Doyle Fox talk about some of his colleagues who are going to be presenting some of the nuts and bolts and some of the things that you can really use with your teachers and your students and parents. And it's my pleasure to introduce a couple of those folks to you here. They are really great resources, and your attendance here at these academies puts you on the priority list. I'm just telling you that. So you may want to ask them what that means. Think about that as you're hearing this presentation and you're looking at the resources that are available that could be made available at your campus or your school or your district. You may want to think about that possibility. So, my pleasure to introduce Lori Knight. Lori joined the Texas Workforce Commission as an education specialist in 2014. With the passage of House Bill 5, the TWC created her position initially to provide outreach to ISDs and educators on career exploration and endorsement options. She is a native Texan and lives in Cedar Park with her family. Welcome, Lori Knight. Lori's being joined and assisted today by Carla Jasen. Carla Jasen has been with the TWC family as an education specialist for 9 months. Carla comes to us directly from the sunshine and orange blossom state of Florida, I like that, where she was an educator for over 11 years teaching both middle and high school students. Welcome our two friends from TWC, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be showing you some resources, and if you'd like to go ahead and if you have a laptop or a tablet with you, if you want to go ahead and make sure you have Wi-Fi access, you're more than welcome to kind of join me on the tools as we're discussing them. Also, my colleagues were nice enough to pass around 3 different documents to your tables. I like to think somewhat important. One has a map of Texas, the other has some pretty colors, charts, and graphs for you. It's the third one that I want to say is extremely important, because this is going to show you all of the resources we're going to discuss and cover today, along with their internet web addresses and just an image of what their homepage looks like, so you can make sure you're on the right tool if you use this later. So please make sure you take those with you. And before I dive too deep into the content, I just want to say, just like Doyle did, thank you very much for having me again this year. I see so many of my partners and familiar faces that I've been discussing with and partnering with throughout the state. So my friends from Victoria, my friends back there in Fruitville ISD and Killeen, just want to say what up. Please feel free to join me as we get serious and discuss the resources that are available through the TWC. So I know that Doyle shared a lot of data with you. And I understand, as you know, being academic-minded, data is only so good as it relates to you and as it's usable for you. So I'm going to show you how you can actually take all of the data that Doyle has been discussing and make it relevant to the work that you do every day. So the chart, or the map, I'm sorry, that you were given is the first step. And the reason why is because in the workforce, when we collect our data and we separate it into the different regions, we actually have 28 workforce regions across the state. So we break down a little bit differently than the 20 ESC regions. And this map is going to show you how those two different worlds kind of overlap. It's important to know where your ESC region falls within the workforce development areas, because when you pull your data, as you query those reports, it's going to ask you to identify the workforce area as opposed to the ESC. So if you look at the numbers, the large black numbers and the pastel colors show you where the division is between the 28 workforce regions. The red dotted lines and the smaller numbers will show you the ESC regions. And on the back side of it is where you can correlate the numbers to the names of the areas. So once you can identify the area that you're looking in, that's how you're going to be able to kind of interact with many of the tools that we have. So that's the first step in pooling your own data. Second step is always start at the LMCI homepage. Okay, so this is what our LMCI homepage looks like for many of you who may have been on it in the past. This is a new and fresh look. So we've just actually released some new updates to what's happening on our website within the last couple of months. It's still divided left and right. Right is for counselors, teachers, parents, students, and on the left-hand side is the tools that are going to be relevant for data. You can see it says here, explore your bright future. I'm just going to click on the resource to get you to the actual tool, because I'm going to show you something that I think is pretty cool about the website now. Let me just shrink it here so you can look at it. So if you are a student, teacher, parent, you can click on the Explore Your Bright Future, and it's going to ask you to identify which audience you're from. So it wants you to let us know, are you a K-12 student or teacher? Are you a counselor? Are you a job seeker or an adult learner? And based on whichever item you click, so I'm going to click on teachers, counselors, every user has a different wheel of suggested resources. And we hopefully can kind of guide students, particularly when they come to use our resources, to go from one spoke of the wheel to the next. But it highlights the individual resources that we think are most relevant for each individual user type. So I just wanted to point that out because it's new to our website, and I wanted to make sure that you saw it. So now, if we are looking for data, this is what the data side of the website looks like. And the great thing about it is, for someone like me, who may not necessarily know how to navigate data resources by name, it will also help you identify resources by either the type. So again, identify the type of user you are, and it will tell you the kinds of resources that are going to be most useful to you. So hopefully it can also identify, if I'm looking specifically for unemployment rates or local economic profiles, or if I'm looking for projections, you can look for those headings and it will take you to the appropriate source. And again, this is what the education side looks like, and our suggested resources by user. Now, if you're interested at all in pulling projections, so information or data that's going to be provided to what we expect to happen in the labor market for the next 10-year period, you're going to want to go to Tracer 2. So Tracer 2 is the first item on your list here of resources, top left. And this is what the tool looks like. If you want to follow me on your own computers, once you get to that website, this is what Tracer 2 looks like. And the little shortcut or the hint I like to tell users is, if you're looking for projections, you're looking for information that is centered around what's happening in the future. So you're going to want to go up to the tab that says the future, and that's how you're going to pull data. Now, there are 3 different ways that you can interact with projection data. And right now, we actually have only 2 of those options available because our data just updated. So roughly within the last 2 weeks, the projections for the decade 2014 to 2024 just posted. So because of that, all of our data is new. The third document that you have with you is this one with the multicolored graphs and the pretty pinwheel chart. This is called a projection overview. We create one of these for every of the 28 regions. And there's lots of great data on here, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I wanted to let you know that currently the option to pull the overview is not available yet, but we expect that to be up within the next week and a half. So no later than the end of October, you'll be able to go onto Tracer 2, pull the projections overview for your area, and it could be one of those 28 regions. The one you're looking at in front of you today is for the state of Texas. So this is state level data. But I wanted to bring it to you so that you can see the kinds of information you can get. I think specifically for those in leadership roles, probably the blue bar chart is one of your most important pieces of information. It's going to show you occupations that we expect to have the most people employed in your region, where associate degree is the method of entry into that occupation. And you can see not only does it have the job titles, but it shows the wages earned, average wages earned for that occupation. And many of those are livable wages. Many of these may be more than what I'm paid, right? More than anyone in this room, based on an associate degree as entry level. And that's important information for academics, those working in leadership roles, because it can help you make a lot of really important decisions as far as what's happening in your ISD or in your district. So I'm going to show you two other kinds of projections information that you can get out of Tracer 2. You can get industry projections and occupational projections, and I'm just going to pull one to show you what it looks like. Now, the difference between this data and your overview is that when you pull the overview, you get this really pretty, colorful PDF. When you pull these projections, you're going to get one very large Excel spreadsheet, but I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I'm choosing the Golden Crescent area, which is out in Victoria. And once I've identified the area I'm looking for, I'm going to download that publication. It'll give you several options, like what do you want to do with it? You want to open it, save it? I'm just going to open it so we can take a look at it. And again, these are Excel spreadsheets. They're relatively large because there's lots of information held within them, so it might take a couple minutes, couple seconds to actually download. But again, you can pull this data that's specific to occupation or specific to industry. And we'll see exactly how we can use them to search for very specific occupation data. So the reason why they're so large is because it's going to include every occupation title that has been identified through ONET, so those SOC codes that we use. So you'll have over 900 different occupation titles. For each of those titles, it provides a wealth of information to the left of this enormous Excel spreadsheet. So it really just depends on how you choose to use it. But so once you get your occupation titles, you can also discover what is the average employment for 2014, because that's the baseline that we're using for the projections, and then average employment that we expect to have in year 2024. And so what was that total number of increase or decrease? So what was the change? And then we look at the percentage as well. So is a percentage an increase or decrease? Then we look at how many job openings we expect to have within that 10-year period. So if an occupation is growing by 140, for example, this is saying it's going to break down to roughly about 15 to 35 new jobs a year. So our postings a year. We can also discover what is the typical minimum level of education in order to hold that specific position. We can also discover if work experience is a requirement as method of entry, in addition to education levels. And then we can find out if on-the-job training is required, yes or no, and if so, is it short-term, long-term, mid-term. We can also find out what are the hourly wages expected for this specific occupation, and this is going to be the mean for that region, as well as the annual wage totaled up. So it breaks it down by hour, and then you also have the annual wage as well. So lots of great information here, and the other Excel spreadsheet just breaks it up into industries. So you get the same occupation information, but you can break it down by industries if you're looking at a CTE program to build that's industry specific. The next tool I'm going to show you is called Help Wanted Online, Help Wanted Online Analytics. So projections pretty much tells us what we expect to happen in the future. HWL is real time. So it's telling us what's happening with jobs right now. Now, this is the only tool, as you can see here right now, the only tool that we have that we can actually look up information based on the ESC region, okay? So this, and here's the tool in real time, okay? Now, if you're interested in finding out the job postings that have been happening the most often, or occurring the most often in your region, we're going to, let's say, look it up by ESC. I'm going to go with Abilene. And currently, our data goes out, and the furthest, or I'm sorry, the most recent, I would say, we have, shows all the way up to July of 2016. But you can go back as far as 2013. So if you're looking for specific trends, you can do this year by year, or you can do a whole stretch of time. I'm just going to show 1 year. So I'll go July to July. So you can change the dates however you need it. It's the simplest report that we have. Generate report, boom. What you're going to get are the top 25 occupations that have been posted the most in your region in whatever given time you've specified. Now, A couple of caveats I want to say about this particular data is that it's mined from the 5 largest job posting sites out in the Ethernet, or on the internet, I should say, in the interwebs, as the kids like to say. So we look at not just our particular Work in Texas, which is our website from the TWC, but we're also looking at CareerBuilder, Monster.com, Indeed.com, and Jobs.com. So it's the 5 largest. It's the 5 largest databases for job postings. Now, with that said, it can kind of mess with the numbers a little bit. So I like to say, when you're going to read this report, you want to take it into context. Of the hundreds of jobs that are available in your area, these are the top 25 identified that have been posted the most often. Okay? Also, keep in mind, if Seton Hospital in Austin, Texas, for example, is hiring 2 nurses, but they put 1 job ad in each of those 5 databases, it counts as 5. But if Seton Hospital is hiring 45 nurses and they still put 1 job posting in each of those 5 databases, we're still going to count it as 5, right? So if we take it into context, again, we look at the report, it's the top 25 of jobs that have been posted over the hundreds of jobs that are available in that region. But also, if you look at the numbers, like number 1 here, for example, truck drivers has been posted in the Abilene area over 3,000 times in that last year. It's a fairly good indicator that there's real demand for that job. Okay? So again, the numbers may not be 100% set in stone, but they still are pretty good indicators of high demand. Did you have a question, sir? Yeah. Absolutely. So is there a way, he asked if there's a way to attach salary information? Yeah. Each of the items on the list, it's an interactive, there you go, it's an interactive link. So when you click on it, it's going to take you right into one of our other tools called Socrates that gives you an in-depth occupation profile. Everything you've ever wanted to know about this job is going to be listed in this report. Okay, so yeah, you can link it to all kinds of things. Alrighty, so that's HWOL. We also have Texas Cruise. Now, Texas Cruise was written with the help of the Higher Education Coordinating Board. We decided that we wanted to help students and parents to make the best informed decisions that they could about where they're going to be sending their children to college, particularly in the state of Texas. And so the Higher Education Coordinating Board brought to the table all of their outcomes data for public institutions in the state, both 2-year and 4-year. And then we brought to the table all the wage information that we collected from graduates of those institutions, and we put them all together in one place. Now, Texas Cruise, again, it's public institutions, 2-year and 4-year, all across the state, and users who want to use this tool can find out all kinds of great information. And it's not just the institutions, you can actually drill the information down to the majors. So if you have a student who's just interested in a particular area of study, a specific occupation, or even a specific major, we can do that. So I'm just going to go through, for example, agricultural engineering. And if that's the data point I'm going to look at, the results that come up will show me all the outcome data for any school in the state of Texas that actually offers that specific degree. And what we get to look at on the bottom here, and as you can imagine, if English major, for example, or a math major, those lists can get pretty enormous because there are many institutions that offer those programs, but I wanted to pick something that was pretty unique so that I can show you a smaller list. But you'll get to see every institution in the state that offers that specific program or degree, and it will tell you how many people graduated from that specific institution. So you'll see all the institutions laid out on the left-hand side, and it will tell you how many of them graduated. And of those graduates, in whatever year you've indicated, you can go as far back as 2002, as current as 2013. And you can find out the number of people who graduated, and of those graduates, what was the average student loan amount that they took with them on graduation. And then you can find out what were their average earnings year 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, and 10 after graduation. which is why it goes back as far as 2002, so you can follow that. Now, and that's if you want to look it up by major. However, we can also just look up information by institution. So if you have a student or a child who's interested in going to a four-year university, specifically Texas A&M, you can get information about that specific institution. And again, at the bottom, so you can find out basic information. I'm going to blow this up so you can see it because I think this is pretty cool. You can find out at this institution, in whatever given year you've indicated, and up here I've selected 2002, the number of graduates, again, average tuition fees, and that's per semester, average student loan amounts that graduates took with them. You can find out SAT scores, mean scores, average first-year earnings, the percent to ratio of student loan versus first-year earnings. You can find out the most popular degrees within an institution, or, here's the golden nugget at the bottom, it will break it down by major. So if you want to know by major how many kids graduated Texas A&M University in architecture in the year 2002, you had 26 graduates, 46% of which had a loan. The total loan that they took with them was just over $19,000, or almost 20. And first year earnings were on average $42,329, et cetera, et cetera. So it's great because you can drill it down by major, or you can drill it down by institution. And again, it's every public 2-year or 4-year institution in the state. That's Texas Cruise, and currently we're partnering with the UT On-Course folks. I'm assuming most folks here know what the UT On-Course team is doing. They are currently going to update Texas Cruise, and that's going to be part of their package of what they're going to offer as far as access to resources throughout the on-course learning modules. So they're working on updating that for us already, even though it's pretty much a fairly new product. All right, so we want to talk about also, though, expanding what career knowledge we have. So the tools that I'm going to show you now are probably, I would say, more appropriate for students or counselors, those who are working directly with students, but we're fairly excited about a couple of them. And I think the reason why it's important for me to show these to you is because educators, we're probably the most reliable career development resource for students. I think many of the most meaningful conversations that students can have with an adult surrounded or about careers is probably going to be with a teacher or counselor. And so it's important that we find ways to keep them informed too. So AutoCoder, probably our simplest tool of all of them. And I'm going to show you real quick why I think it's so simple, because there's only 2 ways to interact with the tool. So either you can plug in a job title or a job description, and by job description I mean a physical task. And what's going to pop up for students or users is some kind of a job title that is also relevant. So if you have a student, for example, who says, I want to be a nurse, but maybe she's not quite exactly sure what kind of nurse, you can just pop in the word nurse, and then it's going to ask you specifically, you're looking for registered nurses, nurse anesthesiologists, or nurses who do dental things, or nursing assistants. So I'm just going to go with registered nurse, see what that is. And then you can get a list of every kind of registered nurse specialty that's out there. So if nothing else, this is going to give your students a very huge list of occupation titles, and many of which they may have never seen or known about. Okay? So that's one way to interact with the tool. Second is, again, that job description. Now here's a great thing about the job description, because it has to be a physical task. I like to tell students, just plug in something you're good at, or plug in something you like to do, right? So the description can be as easy as someone who likes to draw graphics. Okay, so it's going to give me several different ideas, sometimes different occupation families. So I'm just going to say graphic designers, good enough, that's a great match. Again, because I'm just looking to get the larger list of jobs that are relevant or that are closely aligned. Now, when you plug in the job description, I've done with students like somebody who plants trees, somebody who likes to dance. It can be that general, or it can be specific as somebody who knows Cisco, uses Excel spreadsheets. You can be as specific as you want to be. And what happens is the job titles that get popped out essentially either use that function regularly, or it's part of their daily task or work-related skills. Okay? So it's going to provide students the ability to tie activities that they're already good at or interested in order to help them tie those to occupation titles. Another great thing about AutoCoder is students can type in this information in English or Spanish, and the results will still pop up. Okay. So that's AutoCoder. Any questions about that one? Yes, sir. Yes. The same as with all of our other tools, every time you get a list of occupation titles, they're interactive. So you just click on them and they're links that will take you to the occupation summaries. Yeah. So like end goal for all of our resources is to take the students to the occupation summary reports. And that way they can collect all kinds of information about the jobs. All right, I wanted to show you Texas Career Check. This is the resource that Doyle was saying we just released 2 weeks ago. Anyone out here familiar with Texas Cares? It's our old career and college exploration tool. Great resource, but it was ready for retirement. And so this is the new tool that's going to replace it. And we're particularly proud of it. We like it a lot. We've had some pretty good feedback. Okay, so I'm going to go straight to the resource off of our homepage, Texas Career Check. And we've tried to simplify this one as much as possible. The older tool that we had a lot of the same great information in it, but it was rather difficult to navigate through, and students just didn't know exactly how to use it. So we've simplified it. There's only 2 things that you can do on this resource currently: Explore Careers or Explore Education. And when they click on any one of those, so here we're exploring careers, it also breaks it down into how they want to do these things. So they can look up information by occupation title. They can look at occupation trends, or what we call the hot jobs, in any given region. They can compare occupations if they're interested in just kind of showing or looking at the data, reviewing it side by side. They can do that. Or they can gather information about military occupations. Again, just like with all of our other resources, the end goal here is, so if we're going to just look up basic occupation information, they can look up by title, and we have, I don't know if you can see the number here, 1,110 different occupation titles on this list. They're alphabetized here, or they can do an advanced search. And the cool thing about the advanced search is that we can indicate either an occupation category. So are we looking for ones that have a lot of openings? Are we looking for new and emerging occupations? Are we looking for rapid growth? Or are we interested in identifying one of the 16 clusters, Achieve Texas clusters? Or do we want to look at occupations by endorsement type? So lots of different ways that they can look for information, but again, the end goal is once they click on one of those job titles, it's going to take them to that in-depth report. Now, another great feature about this particular tool, as opposed to our older tool, is that students now have the option to save these searches as PDFs so that they can email them to themselves, or save them if they want to put them in some kind of portfolio, or they can print them if they need to turn them in or use them for projects. Now, we don't have the option of creating a portfolio within the tool because, again, we're a state agency. We can't collect private information from minors, so we can't require students to create profiles and save this information. However, that's why we decided to put in the print option, because then they can save it, or they can print it, and they can put it into tactile portfolios, or they can save it on their own computers online. So that's one great, I think, update to this particular tool. So that's Texas Career Check. The other feature on this particular site is the ability to explore education. Now, when they explore education, they're going to be able to collect information from any institution of higher learning across the nation. So whether it's a 2-year institution, a 4-year institution, or a career school, so for vocational training as well, they can find out that information. Oh, another great thing, when they look up the occupations and they get their occupation summary report, they can tie those occupations to college majors, programs of study, certifications, apprenticeship programs, and these are institutions or places that provide this kind of specialized training, again, across the nation. So they're able to connect their career interests into viable opportunities beyond high school, and how to find the places to get that training or education in order to do it. Reality check, I'm sure most of you are familiar with, but I wanted to let you know that it's also getting a facelift. And in about a month, maybe a month and a half, this is what Reality Check is going to look like once the conversion is completed. So we're updating, we're trying to make it look more like a magazine feel to it. You'll notice that the logo up on the top left where it says Texas Reality Check now matches the logo that's used for Texas Career Check. So we're trying to get continuity between our products. And it's going to work exactly the same as the original version, which this is what the original version actually looks like, so that's what you're probably familiar with. But again, so it's going to do the same thing, roughly provide 12 different questions students can answer about the kind of lifestyle they want to live, whether it's in adulthood or whether it's while they're in college. That's the great thing about Reality Check, is that a student can go in and play with it, get information, and then they can go back and change those lifestyle choices so that they can find out how to change the annual salary that they might need. But again, the long-term goal is to discover what salary they need to earn to live the lifestyle they want to have, but then how can they kind of connect that salary need into occupations that actually provide that salary or something higher. So that's Reality Check. I'm not going to get too deep into that because I know that many of y'all are familiar with it. So you do have with you this form. I highly recommend you hang on to it because this is going to show you how to get to our tools. Keep that resource with you. But I also wanted to let you know the Education Outreach team, we're also another service that is available to you. There's lots of things that we can do, be it presentations, in-service, professional development. We can come into your classrooms and do demos for students or talk about labor market realities within your regions and how that's connected to occupation opportunities. So there's lots of things that we can do, and because you're here at the TEA conference, you have VIP status. You're VIPs to all of us and, and to your schools too. But if you choose to contact us to try to get us to come out to your schools, just know that because you've come to a TEA event, you do have VIP status. So again, we have all kinds of services available. There's actually a brochure that details all of the services that the Education Outreach folks can do, and it's on our table that's out in the back. So please feel free to come by and pick one up if you'd like. Otherwise, I just want to talk about, now that you know how to get the data, I think, particularly those in leadership roles, it's important to figure out, like, how do you actually make it useful to you? And I think more than anything, you can probably share this with your CT advisory committees when you're making the decisions on programming within your districts and within your schools. You can also identify the kinds of partners that you should be collaborating with. So be it post-secondary institutions or industries and employers and workforce people within your communities. I think it can also help you to collect buy-in from your local funding resources. So should they be employers or TWC or the chambers in your regions or any kind of education or workforce nonprofits in your area, if you let them know that you're using data behind the decisions and to identify the right partners, those partners may be able to provide all kinds of stuff. So not only is it going to facilitate meaningful conversations with those partners, but it might be able to help you identify staffing needs for people within your community, identifying the barriers that they have that are limiting their staff pool, and then maybe collaborating in ways to build pipelines so they can grow their own staff. Because ultimately, I think that if you can do that, you can provide maybe job shadowing opportunities for students or internships or scholarship opportunities pre-apprenticeship to apprenticeship pathways are viable local opportunities for jobs for students, whether it's post-graduation from your institution or an institution in the area after. But I think the big picture is that it's going to help you build a more robust and sustainable local economy. So your students aren't building the kinds of skills that's going to feed somebody else's economy. So it's keeping those local skills local. So here's our contact information for specifically education outreach. You can contact any of us using a shared website that we have, a shared email address. But again, we also have our brochure in the back, which kind of offers you each one of our individual contact information. So I know that's a lot of information. I've thrown a lot of resources at you. What questions might you have about either the resources that we have, recommendations on any kind of updates? If you've used our tools and you have recommendations for us to help us improve them, we're definitely open for that as well. So are there any questions, comments, suggestions? No? All right, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for having me and my TWC colleagues. And we will be in the back if anybody wants to step out and talk to us about some of our resources and materials. Thank you so much.
Thank you.